And we're determined, along with many other partners for Ukraine, to make sure that you succeed on the battlefield. We're equally determined that over time, Ukraine stands strongly on its own feet, militarily, economically, democratically. A strong, successful, thriving, free Ukraine is the best possible rebuke to Putin and the best possible guarantor for your future. And for all of that, the United States is and will remain a committed partner.
Is it me, or does it look like that was a Hollywood production and they rehearsed it?
Oh yeah, no. When you go to that, you can go from the front shot of Blinken to the two shot. You know, the one over his shoulder looking at Zelensky, and then you get the panning shot with the guy walking behind with the camera. You know, this means a video editor had to sit down and put all that together, and the quality of it tells you how good their video editors is. They sort of suck because you could see some of the other cameras in the shot, but still to go to that length to produce that, I mean, this is all about PR and spin, and they're ignoring the reality that without trained manpower, Ukraine's toast, and they're not going to get trained manpower. So, you know, it's the end is inevitable.
All right, Ray, I want you to respond to this. I won't even introduce it. You'll know who it is and where he is and what he's trying to do the minute this comes on. Cut number 16.
The United States is with you. So much of the world is with you. And they're fighting, not just for free Ukraine, but for the free world. And the free world is with you too. So maybe we can try something?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if we can.
This is the present day. This is the present day successor to Thomas Jefferson. Go ahead, Ray.
Judge, both in reaction to that and in reaction to the other clip, I just want to cry out, no fair, no fair. Leading the Ukrainian people down the primrose path, giving them the idea that they can prevail, that's no fair. That's just really kind of contemptuous. Now, the reality, as Larry said, is that the trajectory is in favor of Russia. Russia is going to win this one. The only question is whether it'll be a definitive win before the election in November, or whether these guys, Blinken and Sullivan and the others, who say, well, wait till 2025, we're going to really prevail then and convince enough people so that they can defeat Trump in November. It's really insidious because the Ukrainians have all used up 500,000 young men, for God's sake, the flower of their youth. Now they're recruiting more people. They don't have enough to get the kind of usage out of the money and the weapons that we are belatedly providing to them. So, yeah, it's just sad to watch. This has happened before. You know, we like to do this. We don't like to do this, but we do this to Afghans and Iraqis and Vietnamese. We do this regularly. When we can't win, we go as long as we can politically, and then we go home.
So, Larry, what the hell was accomplished by this secret mission where he popped up having breakfast with Zelensky on Tuesday or Wednesday morning of this week?
Yeah, I think he was there more to take the temperature, to figure out how long could Zelensky survive. Because there'd been, you know, a coup attempt the week before with those two colonels. They blamed it on Russia. That wasn't Russia. That's internal to Ukraine. The carping, the complaints that used to be coming only from outside, from Russian sources, are now coming from Ukrainian sources, particularly enraged by seeing all the dragon's teeth, you know, those concrete, they look like concrete pyramids. Those are called dragon's teeth. Those have been stacked up instead of deployed. And they found out that all the money that had been spent to build the defenses had been absconded with by a variety of scoundrels in Ukraine. And so there are actually Ukrainian media outlets that are under the control of Zelensky that are now expressing genuine outrage over it. You've got the troops calling General Syrskyi names that, you know, even sailors would blush at using. So it's not going in the right direction for him. And so here's Blinken in there trying to put he's trying to put lipstick on the pig, and pig's not looking too good.
Before we jump over to Netanyahu's problems, here's Blinken eating pizza in a pizza parlor. Now, you would think this is rather benign, and he's with his opposite number. The gentleman on the right in the top photo is the Minister of Defense for Ukraine. In the bottom are two neo-Nazis in the same pizza parlor in front of the same table. And behind them on the wall is all the neo-Nazi paraphernalia that was removed from the wall so that the State Department photographers could take a picture of their boss, Tony Blinken, in front of something other than a swastika. What does this tell you, if anything, Ray?
Well, it says PR on steroids. You know, it reminds me of when Colin Powell gave his infamous speech before the UN Security Council on February 5th.
So that's the one about the weapons of mass destruction.
Right. What they did was they took down the great big mural of Guernica. Okay. They took down that mural because it was an anti-war kind of a peace sort of thing, and they took it away so that no one would see the inconsistency with what Powell was saying and what that painting showed. So it's all PR, and you know the PR is only as good as the Russians decide that they'll put up with. Putin has said many times that he realizes that U.S. foreign and military policy is primarily domestic creature, and that nothing happens before elections that's good. And so will he wait until after November to finish their job in Ukraine? I suggest he will, but not if they send more trainers in, not if they create more provocations. If Estonia and Lithuania force NATO's hand and send trainers into Ukraine, well, 2 months ago, the head of the SVR, Narishkin, had said, well, they become targets, then they won't come back alive.
Of course. Larry, transitioning, has Prime Minister Netanyahu painted himself into a corner with respect to the parents or the loved ones of the hostages, the right-wingers in his cabinet, demanding an immediate invasion and leveling of Rafah, him knowing he can't stay in office much longer unless he continues the war. He boasted to Haaretz earlier this week the war could go on for another 10 years. Stated differently, how unstable is his government and how unstable is Israel as we speak?
He's tied to the fire hydrant, and the dog is facing him. I mean, that's he's in an impossible situation. You know, what's really, I had a chance to listen to one of Ben Gavir's acolytes.
Oh,
the
God,
other day.
You must have had a lot of patience, Larry.
Well, he was debating Norman Finkelstein.
Oh.
And so here's what this guy said, and he was dead serious. This land is ours. This land, from the river to the sea, it's our historical land. It's our heritage. And so in his mind, there was no possibility that, you know, just because his relatives had lived in Eastern Europe for 300 years didn't lessen his claim upon this land where these Palestinians have been living for the past 1,000 years. Oh, no. It's theirs. And so there's no way to reason with that kind of mentality. That kind of mentality is so locked in, it's blind to everything else. And basically, if we take his logic, and many Native American Indian tribes would agree with this, all people of European descent, clear out, including all the slaves from Africa that were brought from Africa, clear out. It's all going back to the Sioux, the Comanche, the Cochise, you know, all the American Native tribes, they get the land back. That's what Netanyahu's facing, and so he's playing to that audience because they're the majority now. They're the ones who actually wield the most power in Israel. It's not the ones who used to argue for a middle ground of living and coexisting with Palestinians. They want to destroy it.
I'm going to guess, Larry, that Professor Finkelstein demolished Ben Gvir.
He stayed. He's always stays remarkably calm and tried to deal with the guy with facts. But with someone like that, facts don't mean anything.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Professor Finkelstein, if you're listening, we welcome you on this show anytime. I would love to be able to interview you, and you'd have a large international audience that would appreciate your work.
Judge,
How adept, Ray, is the Israeli lobby at suppressing free speech in the United States? Seems pretty good at it to me.
Well, so far, so good from their point of view. I don't think these students are going to give up. So it's a matter of how much they persist and how much support they get from outside. What I'd like to just say is that what we've talked about before with respect to Netanyahu, he has a personal stake in this. One of his predecessors, Olmert, said just last week that Netanyahu's personal needs are not congruent with any change in policy. As for Israel's biblical right to this land, I had a personal encounter with a rabbi on top of one of these settlements, in the West Bank. We were driving up on the road that only Israelis are allowed to drive in, and we saw this destitute village at the bottom. No running water, no nothing. We get up to the top, and there's sprinklers sprinkling the nice grass. And this rabbi in charge of the settlement from Cleveland, and he welcomes us. And one of my friends says, "Now, how do you explain the situation down there and the situation up here?" And he says, God granted us this land. Deuteronomy 15:4, you shall have this land. Now, I don't know much about the Old Testament, but I did know Deuteronomy 15:4. And I said, Rabbi, read the rest of Deuteronomy 15:4. He said, what do you mean? I said, you only gave us the first half. The Bible's right there. So he said, all right, you shall have this land with milk and honey, so long as there are no poor among you. Whoa! So it's a deal. You might call that a covenant, Rabbi. How do you explain those people down at the bottom of the hill? Well, we had to leave early because we were no longer welcome, asking impertinent questions of rabbis from Cleveland, now reigning in the settler community.
Larry, have you ever seen a situation in which Ray was no longer welcome?
Hey, listen, I always knew that Ray was a secret Talmudic scholar, okay?
An Irish Catholic from New York, and he's a secret Talmudic scholar. We're going to call it a day in a week, guys. Thank you very, very much for your time, as always. The viewers love you. I love you. We'll see you at your usual times on Monday. Have a great week.
Great. Thanks, Judge.
Thank you.